This is the Chainlink 1 month overview reading for the month of April 2024. It's currently February 29th, 2024, 11:57 a.m. Eastern Time. Link at the time of this reading is currently $19.95 USD, and the shuffle video for the April Chainlink reading was created on February 18th, 2024 at 7:57 p.m. Eastern Time. That's this video here in the lower left corner. Now, the overall theme and behavior for the month of April, we have an important range on a one-year chart scale that's highlighted, probably to the upper end of the range on a one-year chart scale based on what we see in the 1 year. I'll get into that in more detail in just a bit. It's crossed, however, with a U-shaped dip that forms near the intersection of two perpendicular diagonal trend lines. So you have two peaks with a trough in between. Behavior around the highest high, we have a strong cross-reading congruency here, and also the abundance card indicates very likely a new high, at least for the year of 2024. And it'll form when we have a move higher through resistance. We stay above it briefly, and then we break back down through it with a full retracement, or not necessarily a full retracement, but we break back down through that same price level shortly thereafter, and it makes like a capital A sort of pattern in the English language. Behavior around the lowest low. The minion card indicates price swings, notable price swings on a 1 month scale. We very likely see the low twice within those price swings. Now, I'm going to get into the day-by-day chart behavior as well as timing the highest highs and the lowest lows and all that stuff in just a moment. But before I do that, I just want to make sure that everybody's aware. The whole purpose of the channel is to transmute some of the competitive energy of the stock market into goodwill. We do that by following the rule of karma for the channel. You go to the resources tab of our website, Tarot for Traders, and 5% of the profits from every profitable trade utilizing this information should be donated forward to one of these charities, or pick a charity of your choosing as long as you're paying 5% forward, and then 5% should be sent back to the channel through one of these links. If you're international, you can use Wise or you can use YouTube tips. And that leaves you at 90%. Make sure to spend that 90% out of love. As long as you follow those rules, you follow the rule of karma for the channel, the universe considers you an angel investor. It's going to send it back to you tenfold for following through. Blessings to all my angel investors. Let's get back into it. It's important to remember, in some cases, in some readings, occasionally the card's energy will not line up perfectly with 24 hours of time, so there may be cases where you need to give it plus or minus a day here or there on timing. But in cases where that happens, the sequence of chart events as outlined by the prediction remains accurate. So as long as you follow that sequence of events, you should remain on track. So we come off of a peak here. I guess we're probably rallying out of March and into April, and that's very much what it looks like based on the 1 year here. We've got this rally starting in March and the end of March that increases with momentum moving forward into April. We also have that as a cross-reading congruency here in a prominent location, and it also correlates to the first card here in the month of April, indicated by this. We have this rally, but I'm advised not to chase that rally, and we have a peak or crest at the beginning of the day on the 1st that we sell off from through a key support. And then we do a U-shaped reversal below that support, come back and reuse that as support. And this should be a pretty notable peak on a 1 month chart here. All right, so from that return back to support, we then move into the second where we have a notable reversal. And there's a range here that's highlighted, guys. So we're probably near highs right here. Matter of fact, we're near highs right here. Right, and that's indicated by this orange correlating to the oppression card. So we go from this peak here with the reversal into sideways rotation on the 3rd. Sideways rotation ends with a fast sudden move higher, taking us into a pretty big move to the upside, somewhere between the 4th and the 5th. Off of that sideways rotation. There's a trade opportunity here on the 3rd. I'll talk about it in more detail in the paid version, but somewhere between the 4th and the 5th, we have a notable move to the upside, taking us to another high for the month. This will either be the same high or a higher high than the one from the 1st. I'm advised not to chase that rally. There's a speaker on the 5th near the high, or a little bit before the high. There's a speaker on the 5th that can be trusted and relied upon. Whatever they're talking about impacts Chainlink in some way. And then right on the cusp of the 5th, 6th is where we see that high. It's a failed attempt to break through key resistance, which is what leads me to believe it's probably the same price level as the 1st. And it's followed by a decline through key support into a trough towards the end of the day on the 6th. Decline continues somewhere to like the cusp of the 6th, 7th, out of which there's a big move from the bottom of a range all the way to the top of a range on the 7th. We might come up against that same range again, somewhere right around here between the 7th and the 9th. Off of that range, we have a decline increasing with momentum moving forward in time throughout the day of the 8th. On the 9th, we have a move higher through key resistance. We stay above it briefly and then break back down through it, that same price level shortly thereafter with a full retracement. And this is where we have a highest high for the month again. And if there's going to be a high, only one highest high, and this is going to be one of these 3 highs is going to be the highest, it'll be the 9th. I think they're probably the same price levels based on the oppression card, but if one of them is higher, it'll be the 9th. And then we do sideways rotation along key support on the 10th, turning into volatility on the 11th. Within that volatility on the 11th, there's a sharp drop that stands out on like a multi-day scale. Oh, I left out there's a trade opportunity on the 6th and on the 8th. Again, I'll talk about that stuff in more detail in the paid version. And on the 12th, so out of the volatility on the 11th, we rally along a diagonal trend line on the 12th, and that rally along the diagonal trend line ends with a fast sudden move higher and then a breakdown through the diagonal trend line with increasing volatility on the way down. However, somewhere between the 12th and the 13th, between that decline from the 12th, there's a bit of a rally into the 13th because that rally on the 13th is also halted there, and we have another decline through key support on a multi-day scale. It looks like pretty big moves in the earlier part of the 14th. We have, interesting, it's a little difficult to determine which one comes first, but there's a peak and a trough, a prominent peak and a prominent trough on a 1 month scale there early in the day on the 14th. Overall, the 14th should be pretty bearish with sideways rotation near the trough. And then on the 15th, we successfully turned resistance into new support. That doesn't necessarily mean there's a big move higher first. Sometimes with the success card there is, sometimes there isn't. But what we'll do is we'll turn a key resistance into support momentarily. And it's a cross-reading congruency as well. It's the high card for the April reading. So there is some possibility that we see a high one more time here, but I think it's probably unlikely. I think this is just going to be like turning resistance into support. There might be a peak that'll stand out there, but it's going to be lower price levels, I think, than the highs. We'll look at that in more detail in the paid version. Now, before I go any further, If you're interested in the paid version, guys, it's super valuable information. You don't get it anywhere else. This is how you get it. If you're interested in the paid version, it's a really great way to support the channel. You're getting information in the paid version that you won't find anywhere else in the world. This is super undervalued information. Literally, only place you can find it is at Tarot for Traders and the Investor Profit. What you're getting is the timing of the best trades, what type of trades to make, also what type of chart behavior to look for as far as entry and exit into and out of those trades. You get any trades from a multi-month and a multi-year standpoint, and then any price level information that we're able to extrapolate. So this is super valuable information. People with the paid version are making money. So the way that you get the paid version, you go to our website, Tarot for Traders, you hover over our services, click on SO Meta Posts, and then you want to scroll down to monthly subscription, click here to order. You can subscribe to any one of these individual crypto or ticker symbols for $2.49 a month, or you can get the all paid version, which gives you access to all of these crypto and ticker symbols for $4.99 a month. Not to mention, you are also getting any one-offs, any custom monthlies that people order for that month, and any monthlies that I do that are relevant to that part of the year. So there's going to be different monthlies coming out month to month, and you would have access to all of those paid versions through the all paid version. The most popular way to support the channel, and not to mention, it's a really great way to get my attention. So thank you to everybody that goes ahead and does that, and let's get back into it. All right, let's get back into it. So at the end of the day on the 5th, notable move to the downside. Notable move to the downside on the 16th. There's an important resistance highlighted on the 16th that we failed to break through many times before, and then we have a lowest low thus far on the cusp of the 16th, 17th. I'm advised to be cautious on the 17th, some sort of tricky chart behavior. Looks like there's a peak at the end of the day, and then a lot of volatility on the 18th around a resistance level. Usually when you see the Princess of Swords card, it indicates a resistance level that there's enough volatility you could trade both directions, utilizing that resistance as an entry and an exit. And it looks like probably what happens is we go from this peak at the end of the day on the 17th, we have volatility on the 18th declining, and then we come back to that same peak with a fast sudden move higher back to that same peak early in the day on the 19th. So there's some trade opportunity in there. Another peak on the 20th, a near overbought crest that we sell off from through multiple support levels, and then we do kind of like a flat day with the truce card on the 21st. There's a cross-reading correlation here, so it's not as strong as congruency, but there may be some indication of like another prominent low, or maybe a similar lowest low. There'll be a prominent low here, and we attempt to establish support on the 22nd. Trade opportunity there as well. I'll talk about in more detail in the paid version. On the 23rd, we have bumping along resistance sideways. Oh, there's also a peak, it looks like, on the cusp of the 22nd, 23rd, and we bump along resistance sideways before that rally ends on the 24th, and we decline there again. We should see another lowest low on the 24th, 25th. So it'll either be the same low as the 16th, 17th, or it'll be a pretty prominent low. I don't think it's necessarily lower, but actually this would be most likely the lowest one out of all the lows right here on the 24th. I think it's probably the same low as the 16th, 17th. A lot of price change on the 25th, volatility, and an opportunity to trade both directions around a resistance level. There's a peak towards the middle part of the day on the 25th, and some sideways rotation along that. Looks like the sideways rotation continues into the 26th. A lot of price change there. There's a lot of price swinging going on here between the 25th and the 27th. You got the Ace of Swords, the Princess of Discs, the Princess of Wands. That's a lot of price change going back and forth. Princess of Wands means we probably have another peak. So we go from a peak on the 25th to a trough on the 26th, back to a peak on the 27th. Notable trade opportunities throughout these 3 days. I'll inspect in more detail in the paid version. And then on the 28th, we have this failed attempt to break the key resistance towards the end of the day, followed by a decline through key support. And that key resistance, what's important about it is that technicals will lead us to believe we're going to break through. Instead, we disappoint. We decline pretty sharply on the 29th with that unicursal. Decline continues into the 30th, and a pretty notable opportunity on a multi-day scale there for a trade on the 30th, which I'll talk about in more detail in the paid version. As far as the sneak preview for May, the Devil card indicates an intentional fake out, shakeout of some kind, something designed with technical chart behavior to make us do the wrong thing. And so we'll look into that in more detail as we look at it in the 1 year. Before we go any further, let's take a look at the 2024 reading and see how we're doing thus far. So 2024 reading was created October 5th, 2023 at 10:27 p.m. Eastern time. So we have a prominent peak on a 1 year chart here in January, not a highest high per se, but a prominent peak. And the low of January marks a really significant trade opportunity that will stand out when we look back in 2025. When we look back at the 2024 reading, the full card opportunity at the low of January will really stand out as like a really optimal opportunity for a trade. And it looks like that's actually the case. It shared a trough with the January trough, shared with the February trough, and you see there at the end of the month we have that. But then we go into a highest side thus far towards the in February, towards the later part of February, and you can see how that's transpired, going into a higher one in May. And the low of February forms with a U-shaped dip between two peaks. You can see how that took place. This is pretty solid, guys. So as far as the 1 month goes, if you're interested in seeing the May 1 month, as of right now, we're not doing a monthly reading for May. This link reading was a custom ordered reading. The way that you can get a custom reading done, like you have a ticker or a crypto symbol that you're interested in, you can get a custom reading done here. Under our services, SO Meta Posts, scroll all the way down, custom monthly reading, click here to order. This is one of our pricier items, but the information that you get, you can't find anywhere else. Nobody even comes close to the same accuracy or detail. Now, keep in mind, we're not right all the time, so never trade like we are. You will regret it. And also, give it plus or minus a day of wiggle room here or there, depending on if the sequence of events is right on point or a little bit off. It could be a day here or there, but the sequence of events always remains accurate. So as long as you remember those things and you trade responsibly, you should do pretty good with this information, my friends. Again, found nowhere else, totally undervalued. You just put in the month that you're predicting and the ticker symbol or crypto. Specify crypto if it's crypto, and add to cart. Much appreciation to everybody that does that. All right, guys, and that's the link. April reading for 2024. Much appreciation to all those of you watching. If you like this sort of thing, please make sure to put that in the comments and subscribe, or make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that. It really helps out the channel. Most importantly, though, make sure to follow that rule of karma. You do that at the resources tab. You know where to go. You know what to do. Blessings to all my angel investors. Stay tuned if you got the paid version. We're going to get into those best trades that we see.